What's up, guys? All right, let's go through a little bit of what's going on in 2024 with certain hitters that I think is kind of relevant to what we've been talking about. First of all, if you guys don't know my stuff, I see the swing quite differently than how most people see it out there. Most people see it as swing mechanics as a plethora of possible faults that you can make and many different areas of the swing that need to be touched on and worked on. And, that's not the way I see it. I see it as, at least right now in our evolution in swing instruction, there is a most important thing to focus on. The major thing that's missing from today's swing, and that is what I call a lead arm dominant structure. It just so happens that modern instruction and many other factors have decreased the amount of lead arm dominance in the swing. And so this decrease in lead arm dominance has lowered power. You can still hit with pretty high consistency with the opposite, which is what I would call a back arm dominant movement. Tony Gwynn is the prime example. Tony Gwynn had very much of a back arm dominant structure. He still had some lead arm dominance. I don't think that you'll be able to hit well if you were too much back arm dominant at the major league level. Pretty much you need some lead arm dominance to hit well at that level. But he was very much in the vein and very much leaned towards back arm dominance. And you can see this in his action. There's a lot of slicing hits. A lot of the high average, low power hitters had quite a bit of back arm dominance in their action. I just don't think that's the way to go. I think that for the baseball swing, it just so happens that leaning hard towards lead arm dominance happens to produce higher levels of both power and consistency. We don't see that it's absolutely necessary to have low power to have high consistency. If you look at Ruth, if you look at Williams, even Hank Aaron had a higher batting average than Pete Rose. And people would assume, because our culture tends to overemphasize consistency, people would assume that Rose was the better hitter, and it's not even close. Aaron hit hundreds and hundreds of more home runs and had a higher batting average. I mean, these are hitters who are at different levels completely. Aaron was many levels better than Rose. So, anyways, my feeling is that first and foremost, what we need to do in swing instruction is put a hyper focus on lead arm dominance, the lead arm dominant structure. And then we can start worrying about the 2% and the 1% things. But right now, everyone is concerned about things that either don't matter or they're even leading people in the opposite direction that they want to go. So decreasing power or decreasing consistency with the methods that are being taught. So first and foremost, we have to understand the lead arm dominant structure and move towards that. Now, what exactly is the lead arm dominant structure? Many people think that it's just using your lead arm more. It's not really that. And back arm dominant structure isn't necessarily using your back arm more. I believe that in any swing, you should use both your arms equally. It's more about when you're developing your swing. The back arm dominant structure tends to develop in people who have very coordinated and strong back arms, and the lead arm dominant structure tends to develop in people who have who are more dominant in their lead arm and therefore less dominant in their back arm. It really all has to do with when they're developing their swing, how capable is their back arm of overexerting, because if it's capable, their swing is going to take a different structure than if it's not. If it's not so capable, if they're not dominant in their back arm, or for whatever reason they don't have the strength to utilize it as they swing very much, then they're going to default to what I call a more lead arm dominant structure, which is the hands getting more behind you. It's basically defaulting to what the lead arm would do all by itself. And if you pick up a bat and swing with just your lead arm, it's going to want to catch a free ride. And I'm pressing my arm against my body here, but if it's moving, then you're going to feel this pressure up against your body. You're going to have the tendency to want to get your hands more behind you and use more of your body to rotate through. If the back arm is real dominant as you're learning the swing, what it tends to want to do is push forward. Our back arms just think, I can help in this movement. I have a lot of power, and it wants to, almost like a jab movement, it wants to push forward, or a straight punch. And this is just not as effective for hitting a baseball. Like I said, you can have high consistency, but you're pretty much taking power off the table. So I have a way of developing a lead arm dominant structure very quickly. And like I said, this is what all hitters need to focus on. Pros all the way down to Little League, they need to focus on ensuring that they have a lead arm dominant structure. And that's what my new book, Swing Like Griffey, is about. That's what pretty much all of my videos are about, as many of you guys know. So when I go through the swing, just know that I'm going through it with the view of lead arm dominance and how important that is. So I'm always looking for where's this more back arm dominant structure in his swing? How can we get rid of more of that and move more towards a lead arm dominant structure? And again, if you guys want to know how to do that, check out my book, Swing Like Griffey, at theswingmechanic.com. Last thing I'll say about that is this. Make no mistake about it. This is calling for a complete overhaul of how we've been doing things in swing instruction. When I look at swing instruction, I think it is 100% off base, many times doing a 180 from what you actually want to do. Oftentimes they are teaching more back arm dominant moves. Deceleration is one. Staying inside the ball. All this stuff is more back arm dominant in the structure that they teach. So if my stuff seems just completely different and crazy to you, I understand. I never got into this to be the hitting coach down the street. I wanted to be the first one to understand the swing. It took many decades for me to do that, but now here we are, and what I'm saying is not at all what's being said in swing instruction. But that's not because, in my opinion, I'm so wrong. It's because swing instruction, the culture within it, is completely off base because they're missing this main thing, which is the importance of a lead arm dominant structure. And you can call this structure whatever you want. I call it lead arm dominant because that's how it tends to develop most often in hitters, is that they're lead arm dominant. They put their lead arm, their dominant arm is used as their lead arm when they're learning the swing. And this is why we see so many of the great hitters had dominant lead arms in one way or another. They either wrote or threw with their lead arms, many of them. Anyways, so as we go through these hitters, you know how I'm coming at this. Now, as far as Alex Bregman, he's one of these guys, and I'm going to show 4 guys who has been working on things that I think are just not good things. Again, he's working on a lot of the conventional stuff. He's very much working on the staying inside the ball, going the other way, trying not to rotate his shoulders. That famous clip of him saying, if there are two headlights on my shoulders, I want them just pointing straight ahead while I move my hands towards the ball. I am vehemently against this action. This is precisely what's been wrong with swing instruction for so many decades now. They want to teach what they are pretending to be the most prudent way to implement swing mechanics. They want to come off as being a sagacious, prudent, wise, disciplined way of approaching the swing, but it's actually the opposite. It's an idiotic approach to the swing because you're unnecessarily decreasing power. There's no reason to do that, and we've seen Alex Bregman's power going further down as the years have gone on, and he's worked more and more on this stuff. Here he is at just 60 or so at bats, I believe, at this point. This snapshot a few days ago, but he's still got 0 homers out of 60 at bats. Average is not fantastic, so he's continuing seemingly the decline that he's been in over the last couple of years. Let me just caveat this with, he's one of the great hitters of our time. I don't want to, and has played many levels above any level I got to. That being said, when somebody starts working on a certain mechanical discipline with his swing, you want to see where he started at and where he's gone since he's been working hard on this certain mechanical cue. It doesn't really matter that he started off as an all-star in the major leagues or if he started off as an average college player. It doesn't really matter. You're looking at has his performance improved or has it gotten worse? And he's working all this stuff in the offseason to get better. He's not working to just maintain, and yet we're seeing him actually decline. So that's the first guy, Bregman. And at 190 pounds, he's not light, He definitely is capable of hitting home runs, and he has hit home runs. He's hit 41 homers. I think it was about 5-6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. Aaron Judge is another one. Working on things that I think are really rather inconsequential. Having said that, I do think that it's possible that the things that he's been working on early in his major league career could have helped him achieve some of the ridiculous numbers that he has. He's had one of the best right-hander seasons of all time with his 62 homers and he had above a 300 average. Make no mistake, he's turning out to be one of the best right-handers of all time. Having said that, I don't think that what he works on mechanically is ideal. Could it have helped him? It could have made his positioning at contact if he had really poor mechanical cues, a lot of the snapping of the bat back, and that could have made his positioning at contact better. But let's see how it turns out. He's not a great example of why a certain mechanical cue works or doesn't work because he's 282 pounds and 6'7". That is just a different game. We saw what 40 pounds of muscle did for someone like Barry Bonds. Imagine 40 pounds on top of that. So it's hard to tell. He's never really had a season where he wasn't working on whatever mechanical cues he works on in the major leagues. So it would have been nice to have like 5 seasons and then, see a night and day difference between before and after. Anyways, not starting off so well. Still has a 126 OPS plus. I think due to his walks. But he's got a below 200 batting average at this point. 3 home runs instead of 2, and I think like 60 or so at bats, which is great for a regular player. It's a little below his average of like somewhere around 10 at bats per home run, which is insane. Anthony Rizzo, another guy who started working on the same stuff Judge works on. His power, I think he's still got 1 homer in above 60 at bats. His batting average, I think, is around 250 at this point. Not exactly killing it. Home run production definitely low as well. Be interesting to see how his year pans out. Being a 6'3", 240, definitely should be going for home runs. I mean, 1 home run in 60 at-bats is not a good start. Luis Arraez, here's another guy who works on, a lot of that tapping the knob of the bat on the ball. That sort of promoting that hands first. Now, here's a guy who naturally has a very lead-arm dominant structure. He throws right, bats left. That's the typical, that's actually the perfect combination you want to be a great hitter. Why? Because it means that they're not as dominant in their back arm. And all humans tend to lean towards a little bit more right arm dominance. So this is why you see so many throw right, bat lefts in the Hall of Fame. Now, the more Arraez does these drills where he's pushing his hands out, well, the less he's going to be lead arm dominant. And this is what I see from a lot of major leaguers. They enter the league and they're lead arm dominant to begin with. They have quite a bit of lead arm dominance in their structure. And then they start working on, because now hitting is serious, right? They maybe never tried to work on the conventional approaches before. They never paid attention to what was being taught. But now they're at the major leagues. Now they feel like they should be more professional about it. And they start working on a lot of this conventional approach that has a lot of back arm dominance in it. And so they start to slip. You see this a lot. I think, we'll see how this year pans out. I don't think 0 home runs in 60 or more at-bats is very good. That should be something that you are paying attention to. And now his batting average doesn't seem to be very high at the moment. I just think that probably he's leaking a lot of lead arm dominance out of his swing with all these drills that he's doing that promote more staying inside the ball and pushing the hands outward, using less of your body rotation. Now, let's go to the guys who are crushing it. Marcell Ozuna, 225 pounds. He already has 7 homers and 66 at-bats with a 364 average. That is just crushing it. Let's look at his swing. He weighs, 225, I think it was? So, big guy. This guy is capable of a lot of homers. Look at how the bat just drops. This is the move you're looking for. The bat is dropping behind him as he's starting forward. There's space between the bat and his helmet. That's a good sign. That means that he's getting the right. There's a dropping action as he's starting forward. This is beautiful positioning. It looks like if you just took his back arm off, put your finger there and just take his back arm off, he looks very much like he would look if he was swinging a bat with his front arm by itself. This is kind of the same sort of movement he would make. And then as we go into contact, you can see well connected there at contact. Beautiful positioning. A lot of it has to do with how much, when you guys are doing the lead arm progression, if you're finding it hard, a lot of people find it hard to stop exerting the front arm. Even when they don't have their back arm has kind of instilled this structure in their swing. And so they find it hard to stop exerting their front arm, their lead arms. Try to feel such looseness in your arm that as you start forward, you kind of get your front arm, your lead arm to bump up against your chest a little bit. Feel the front humerus compression by loosening up the arm and combining that movement with a fluid torso rotation, shoulder rotation. And feel that lead arm compression up against your chest as you start forward. It's a looseness and it's a timing of the opening of your torso with the swing of your arm that allows for this quick compression up against your chest. Try to feel that. Hone that movement with just your lead arm and then add your back arm and stay within that structure. Notice the late extension of the back arm here. That tells me that he's very lead arm dominant in his structure. This is kind of a Darryl Strawberry position here, where you see the bat actually at the other angle. Normally guys fight flipping the bat over too fast here, and you see an angle between their back arm and the bat, with the bat headed more to Ozuna's left. Now you can see that the angle is actually created on the other side. The bat is actually angling away from his back arm here in the direction that you don't normally see. This is Strawberry-like. Darryl Strawberry did this a lot. This just tells me that, man, there is like zero flip in his swing. Kyle Tucker's another one who's very lead arm dominant in his structure. He's also crushing it this year. Already with 5 homers, a 160 OPS plus. This guy, I think, is a future MVP of the league. His swing is, and he's another guy who throws right, bats left. His swing is going to keep him hitting the ball consistently hard. Now what he has, notice this action here. This is something we've talked about in the past. Very indicative of lead arm dominance. As he starts forward, notice the space. Most guys go the other way. As he begins his swing, notice the bat actually creates space between his helmet and the bat. This is what lead arm dominant structures tend to want to do sometimes. And then he kind of has this casted move where there's not a lot of pressure on the hands necessarily, and the angle of the bat in the hands, the lag, so to speak, but there's pressure more in his shoulders as he starts forward. This is what you want. Again, when you're doing the lead arm progression, feel the pressure up against your chest because your shoulder is taking a brunt of the inertia as you start forward. And then extends pretty hard through contact. He's got a lot of that dipping towards the swing, towards the plate as he goes through the swing. I don't really like that. I'd rather him just look away. Away meaning more behind him, more out in the field or behind him. Allow the swing to just finish. Allow your body rotation to go through. But a lot of guys get taught this very much head down at the point of contact, and they think and they practice it, and so they do it in a game. It's not something you want to practice. It doesn't pay to keep your head down at the point of contact after contact has been made. That is, again, swing instruction moving more towards back arm dominant instruction and moving towards what seems to be very plausible, reasonable approach to the swing. But it just so happens that it's not. It's a waste of your energy, and it's going to hurt your joints, and it's going to decrease your power. It's not a good thing. Let your head come up. Mike Trout also killing it in his last year. This guy is going to go down as the best right-handed hitter of all time. He is this is his last year, and he's probably going to have one of the best last years by a hitter of all time, I bet. We'll see, but he's definitely still in his prime, and he's going to call it quits at the end. Let's take a look at his swing. Already 7 homers with a 284 batting average, 192 OPS plus. So here's his swing. Wraps the bat at this point, Not a whole lot of a backswing. Just wraps the bat here. That just shows you that however you want to do lead arm dominance is fine. The quintessential piece is lead arm dominance. People look different. We don't need to match things that lie outside of the realm of lead arm dominant characteristics. In other words, you don't need to match that Trout wraps his bat or that Kyle Tucker casts his bat prior to starting forward. Those are inconsequential. What matters is how you want to do lead arm dominance. Here you can see he's got a lot of front humerus compression there. Very lead arm dominant in his structure here. You can see quite a bit of compression against his chest of that lead arm. If you took away his back arm, you could see somebody swinging like this with their lead arm by itself, catching a free ride from the rotating torso. Trout has a ton of whip. You can see the lag here. Ruth had a lot of lag. For the most part, lag, if you can do it, is going to get you more power. More lag is typically going to get you more power. It's okay. I don't really advise it if the person doesn't feel comfortable in lead arm dominant structure doing it. And it's okay. Albert Bell, one of the best all-time pound-for-pound hitters, casted the bat a lot. Mel Ott did too. Beautiful positioning there at contact. This is very lead arm dominant. He's very turned at contact. Trout likes to tilt towards the plate a lot. That's neither here nor there. Again, if you want to do that in your lead arm dominant structure, that's fine. But he probably also does it because he's making contact so consistently, so connected, that he has to kind of get closer to the point of contact to be that connected at contact. He is always extremely connected. You can see his hands have utilized gravity here. His arms are very loose, and they've just dropped onto the ball very nicely. And then the extension of the back arm very late in the swing, which you typically see from the best pound-for-pound hitters. And Trout cuts his swing very short, but that's been a trend, I think, in large part because of Trout. But you can't just cut your swing short and have it work for you like it works for Trout. That's just something Trout does in his lead arm dominant structure. It's something that can be done in a lead arm dominant structure. You know, Trout is a very strong person, so he's also a righty. So, you know, righties are headed to first base. So he just is able to stop his swing really early and not lose a lot of power, not lose any power most likely from it, and maybe get a little bit more speed to first base. But I don't advise getting in the habit of stopping your swing early. Trout has perfect positions up until contact. So if he stops his swing here, it doesn't really matter. But most people don't have such good positions, such lead arm dominant positions as they go through the swing. And so people are just copying the finish. And that's only going to decrease your power. And let's take a look at this swing as well. I believe both of these were home runs. You can see, again, a very lead arm dominant structure there. Look how this is the key thing right here. Look at how his back arm basically doesn't extend at all from here to contact. He's just rotating. Watch. Just rotating. From here to here. Just rotation and let the hands drop onto the ball. The key is developing a structure to the swing where your back arm is not overexerting. So your lead arm should have gravity affecting it more. Your lead arm by itself will want to drop more onto the ball. Try to stay more upright. It's not a must. You can be more bent and tilted, but it tends to help people, especially starting out, to not tilt so much. Tilting will oftentimes go along with a back arm dominant structure. Doesn't have to. You can see here, Trout tilts quite a bit and is very lead arm dominant in structure. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, share the video with a friend. I appreciate it. Take care.